Now, for months and months that we were told that the Democrats are going to fight for the Dreamers. They're going to fight for the Dreamers. They're on the side of the Dreamers. Man, we're really gonna hold the line. We're gonna fight. We're gonna make sure that these people who were brought here through no fault of their own, when they were when they were kids, when they didn't have a choice, they created a life here. They got an education. They got jobs. Some created businesses. We were told that the Democrats were going to fight for them. In fact, I mean, look, Senate Democrats made a deal with the Republicans, with Mitch McConnell, and Mitch McConnell says, "Oh yeah, don't worry, we'll make sure to give them a vote." Well, did that happen? No, of course not. Never ever trust Mitch McConnell, ever. But beyond that, well, look, we've got a big fight when it comes to the budget coming up very, very soon on the 23rd. The government runs out of money, so they've got to get a spending bill passed, and they got to get it passed soon. And they've been working on something called an Omnibus. This is a huge, huge government spending piece of legislation. It must pass, or again, we're going to have a government shutdown. Now, look, the Democrats, again, they said, we're going to have this be an issue. In fact, we might actually tie it to the spending bill. Well, guess what happened? The Democrats just did what they do best. They folded. According to The Hill, Democratic leaders have announced that they are backing off their demand that Dreamer protections be a part of the 2018 budget negotiations. Of course they did. I haven't seen a thing that Democrats haven't backed off from in this administration. This is amazing. Now, Nancy Pelosi has signaled that she will not hold a line for Dreamers heading into next week's expected vote on the Omnibus spending bill. Instead, Democratic leaders want appropriations in both parties to drop all contentious riders for the sake of easing passage of the Omnibus and preventing a government shutdown ahead of March 23rd when funding expires. Now, I'm going to tell you the reason about this, why they're doing this. But first, I want to quote here from Democratic Whip Representative Steny Hoyer, who's such a great lion of progressive values. He says, quote, "I think that's probably the best policy for us to do, to try to convince Republicans to drop all their riders. Good luck getting them to drop the abortion rider, which is what they can't wait to get passed. That would be a restriction of the Hyde Amendment, which, by the way, they're also using to hold up Obamacare payments for people who are really sick or low income. Yeah, fuck poor people. And also fuck the Dreamers." That's what the Republicans are saying. And the Democrats are saying that too. Like, we didn't really care about that issue to begin with. He says, Steny Hoyer continues, "It's also politically the most feasible way to get an omnibus passed." So let me tell you the real reason why the Democrats gave up on this. And they decided to try to urge them to do it without riders. Wall Street. Look, the donor class would be impacted greatly by a shutdown. I mean, just the threat it is enough to send the market into a tailspin. Oh, no, the donors, we can't have them lose money. The markets, what about the markets? Whatever you do, do not disturb the markets. So let's get this passed immediately. We'll drop everything. We won't demand anything. No help for the Dreamers, no Obamacare payments, nothing. No, let's just get this passed. Get this passed. You want an anti-abortion rider? Well, we'll have to think about that. But most likely we're probably going to fold on something. They have the leverage. They've got leverage. But look, Hoyer's actually going to address that. Hoyer suggested the Democrats' most effective tool in moving the Republicans to act on DACA is not withholding omnibus votes, but rousing pressure from the public. So wait, instead of using your leverage that you have politically, And again, part of that leverage does come from, actually, a lot of that leverage comes from popular support. And look, 87% of people polled say, yes, we support DACA. There's your leverage. And then you could say, look, I'm being backed by the American people. The American people say, let's do something about DACA. So let's do something about DACA. Again, you promised us a vote. We haven't had that happen yet, so we can't take you at your word. So guess what? We're going to call your bluff. Hey, we're willing to shut down the government in order to get something that we want. We don't want to have to do it, but that's on you. Give us what we want and give the American people what they want, and we'll let it go. We'll fund the government. But look, the Democrats, do you think they have a spine enough to do that? No, they don't have enough. They don't have a spine. Again, they just rolled over. They didn't even have a chance to call bluff. I mean, look, they had aces, right? Look, I don't play cards. Okay, so maybe this will be a bad analogy, but you got a winning hand sitting right there, and the Democrats are like, man, I could totally win this game right now. Fold. I fold. Take all my chips. Take them all. God, they're so weak. They're so weak. But look, this is Hoyer saying also, hey man, it's not my job. It's your job as the American people. No, you're our representative. You're supposed to represent us. And look, he should use his amazing leverage on this issue to force a vote. But again, they're not going to. And going back to that promise made by Mitch McConnell, you think Paul Ryan or Mitch McConnell are going to bring this up for a vote? This is Lucy with the football. God, these Democrats are terrible. They're the worst. And you know why? It's because they're paid to lose. And this is the difference between Democrats and Republicans, by the way. And not just talking about policy here, but I'm talking about how they play politics. Because politics is also pretty important. Republicans are strong. They're strong in the issues. All throughout the Obama administration, when they held the minority of seats, they're like, hey, you know what? Fuck you. We want this now. And guess what? The Democrats would often give them their way. I don't know why. But look, they were strong. The Democrats are incredibly weak. Now, look, there's a couple of reasons why the Republicans are strong. For one, they actually do primaries. I know. That's like the thought of doing primaries on the Democratic side, I mean, gets people so riled up. Like, oh my God, how dare you do a primary? You're going to make me waste my campaign donations. You're going to make me waste my money on running a primary. How dare you guys? Why don't you just support the incumbent? Why don't you be a good little Democrat and vote for us? Whereas, look, Republicans are like, oh yeah, I don't think you're conservative enough. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to replace your ass. And you know what? It actually does work. Now, maybe there's a bad effect on it because it's made conservatives that much more worse. But that is a relative term. Again, you've got so many different people that are... you've got so many different politicians that are paid to... Look, they're paid to lose, man. The Democrats are. And look, the Democrats get paid to lose. The Republicans get paid to actually win. And so, look, when you run a primary against, I guess, a weaker conservative, if you're on the Republican side, and you get, you know, you make your case to the base, the chances are you might actually win. Now, I got a great example. There's Dave Brat, right? Dave Brat ran against the banks. Turns out the banks are really unpopular on the Republican side as well. They're also really unpopular among the Democratic base. So a lot of people are very, very angry at the banks, especially since, I don't know, they crashed the economy. So Look, you got this Republican that ran against the corruption, ran against the banks, and took down Eric Cantor, who was a leader in the Republican Party. Why can't we do that on the Democratic side? Now, speaking of, look, the Democrats, yes, they're paid to lose, but they're paid to lose against Republicans. And that's also a big difference here. Because you see incredibly strong, vicious attacks from Democrats when they're in primaries against progressives. And we've done stories about how the establishment politicians, they pull no punches. They definitely do vicious smears against progressives because they're strong against progressives. They don't want progressives to win and to run against the Republicans. But when they run against Republicans, they're super weak. And again, they're paid to lose to Republicans, but they're paid to win against progressives. So that's one of the huge problems. So, but the Democrats, as I said, they're paid to be weak against the Republicans, and the donor class goes in there and they pick and choose, and they throw their money behind the most spineless Democrat. And then, look, the message around that too is, hey, no, we picked this guy. He's a moderate. He's going to work with Republicans. We're going to do rare bipartisanship. You can't choose the more partisan, more progressive candidate in this race. No. You have to pick the reasonable one because it's the only one that can win. Not necessarily, man. But look, these are the kinds of Democrats that you get. And these are the people. And look, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the leadership. Our leadership, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein, do you think she actually represents her district? The actual values of her district? Absolutely not. She's incredibly conservative. She votes with Trump 31% of the time. She's ancient. And look, the reason that she's there is that she raises lots and lots of money from corporations. And she's a fundraising superstar, but she hasn't really done anything else. That's the kind of leadership that you get when you have Democrats that are paid to lose. And look, Pelosi, for her part, she actually does. I actually do have a quote here from her. She said, "quote There's not a whole lot of reason to negotiate, to do anything that is not already covered by the court decision." And so she's talking about the recent court decision that let the Dreamers stay here for a certain amount of time. It gave them basically an extension on how long they could stay. But that's not a solution. We actually have to have a legislative solution. Now, on the Omnibus, and why Pelosi is not choosing to fight, she says, "It is necessary for us to pass the Omnibus to defend our country, to invest in our children's future, to keep America number one in every respect, to do so in a way that creates jobs." Number one? Wait, where are we number one? I don't understand. Like, is there any good metric that we are number one in at this point? No. Defend our country. Defend our country from what? The military always gets funded. No, I don't mean the troops. But usually the defense contractors always get their cut. They always get their pay. And that's, of course, while they ask the soldiers to go without pay and without good equipment. I know how this thing works. And again, not defending our country. We're giving weapons and money to Saudi Arabia to go and bomb innocent people in Yemen. We're in a bunch of different countries. And we're doing bombs, and that's not keeping us safe. That's actually worse. And as far as children's future, again, we're not really doing a whole lot in that respect. So this is, I guess this sounds like to me a Republican talking point, and a reason not to fight. But we should fight this is why we need real progressives. We need real progressives who are actually going to fight on real issues. So it's just another reason to get rid of Nancy Pelosi and Dianne Feinstein and actually replace them with people who are actually going to do the job of representing the people and their best interests. Because right now, we have a Democratic Party that sadly does not. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.